The 2025 Chinese Grand Prix just took place, and what a boring race that was, but we did get some interesting results towards the end. Let's review each of the drivers and teams' performance, starting with the worst performance of the weekend and ending with the race winners. The first team on the list is Alpine. They genuinely seem like the slowest team on the grid because China was the first dry race of the season, and this is the race where you can actually see who belongs where. So both of the drivers get knocked out in Q1, and throughout the race, despite executing a one-stop strategy, both of them were well outside of the points. Towards the end of the race, Duhan was, showing some elbows out defensive moves, picked up a 10-second penalty in the process, but I guess it'll be useful if or when he gets into a competitive car, but overall, they really don't have any pace and there's nothing much really to talk about. Pierre Gasly is constantly going to, put the car in higher grid positions for the race because he's good at qualifying. And that's about most of the performance that we're going to see. Hopefully, they will bring in some nice upgrades, but at the end of the day, they're still powered by the Renault engine, which is shit. So don't think there are going to be much performance improvements from these guys. Up next, we have Sauber. These guys were just suffering from bad luck throughout the Chinese Grand Prix. I was actually interested in seeing their race because the P7 that Hulkenberg got in Australia was kind of inconclusive, and Gabriel Bortoleto also did not get an opportunity to showcase his true skills because he retired in Australia. So in China, I was genuinely looking forward to their pace to find out where they used to be or are. And we couldn't know because in the race, first Nico Hulkenberg damages the floor of his car and it cost him a lot of time. So he was basically out of contention. And on the other side, Gabriel Bortoleto, he spun out while I think he was chasing Oliver Bearman or somebody. He spun out, he went into the gravel traps, ruined his tires, had to pit, and his race was basically done because there was like no safety car or something like that. So the entire Chinese Grand Prix race was a practice session for these guys, and these guys were just doing the laps around the circuit to complete the race, basically, and bring the car home and collect some useful data. We move on. Racing Bulls. There's a lot to unpack here. So, Racing Bulls, or AlphaTauri, or however the fuck you want to call them, these guys do have a fast car, and I believe the car can be competitive with the actual Red Bull in certain conditions. Either way, they have a fast car, a competitive car, which is probably ahead of the midfield. And both of the drivers seem to get along well with the car. If you remember in Australia, Hajar did have a good qualifying result, P11, and Yuki Tsunoda put the car in P5. Obviously, Hajar crashed out in formation lap in Australia, tricky conditions, he's a rookie, blah blah blah. But that's one of the reasons why I was very excited for the Chinese Grand Prix, because I wanted to see what both of these drivers could do and demonstrate the raw pace of the Racing Bulls and grab some decent amount of points. And unfortunately, both of these guys were fucked by the pit wall of Racing Bulls, both in Australia and also in China. Very unfortunate. I really don't understand why they had to do the two-stop strategy, because literally none of the people around them were going for like a two-stop strategy. I know that Hamilton went on a two-stop strategy out of desperation, but nobody in the top 10 actually went for a two-stop strategy. So the first thing you need to do is check the pace and compare it at the beginning of the stint and now where you are pace wise, and you look at what others are doing. When you have so much to lose, when you are a midfield team and you have a good car this year and both of the drivers are getting the most out of the car, you have a lot to lose. So I don't know why they made that mistake. I guess this is how they will learn. I mean, Hajar is fast. He has outqualified Yuki in the second Grand Prix of the season. But I guess it's too early to tell, because in both of the Grand Prix, these two drivers have scored 0 points. Whatever points Yuki picked up, he picked up in the sprint race in China. And the only reason he picked up some points in the sprint race in China is because the Racing Bulls did not fuck up his strategy. And that was because there was no pit stop in the sprint race in China. We move on. All right, so there's a lot to say here. First, let's start with the positives because there are not many. The only positive is the car is actually kind of competitive. It's not a shitbox, thank God. When the car qualifies well and ahead, these guys can, hold their own, if you know what I'm saying. And when they push, when the tire is in the right window, they're definitely competitive all the way to the front runners. They're definitely faster than the Mercedes and potentially also the Red Bull when the tire is in the right window and stuff like that. That's the only positive to take away from Ferrari's weekend out of China. And also, Lewis Hamilton won his first ever sprint race from pole position for Ferrari. And this is also Ferrari's first ever win. But the entire weekend was a complete Ferrari experience because we started the weekend good. There were some promising signs in the first practice. Sprint, Lewis Hamilton gets pole. Then sprint race, he wins from pole positions. Oscar Piastri couldn't keep up with him. Max Verstappen couldn't keep up with him. Like the signs were great. The main race, both of these guys qualify, I think, in the third row, fifth and sixth, which is not ideal. But I guess if you have demonstrated the kind of pace that you have shown in the sprint race, we should be all right. And in the race, everything just falls apart. Lewis Hamilton doesn't have the pace that he demonstrated in the sprint race because for some reason, when the car was working perfectly fine, they decided to make some changes to the car. I don't know what the reasoning behind it was. In case of Charles Leclerc, fortunately, he had some pace in the car during the race, and that's because his front wing end plate from the left side broke off. So that unlocked more performance. So I guess all of the aerodynamic components on the Ferrari car, they slow the car down instead of making it go faster. So that would be my first guess. Either way, both of these guys, managed their race some type of way. They could have pushed a little bit more. I'm pretty sure Lewis could have certainly pushed a little bit more. I don't know why he wasn't. He just got desperate and pitted for a new set of hard tires, went on a two-stop strategy. They were already losing time. I guess they had nothing to lose. And they basically finished in the same positions, but in the reverse order. Obviously, it's not a Ferrari weekend if something catastrophic doesn't happen, because in sprint race, the emotions were very high, right? Lewis gets his first sprint pole and then he wins the race there. Same for Ferrari, right? I just talked about it a couple of minutes ago. So something catastrophic had to happen. That's why both of the Ferrari got disqualified from the race for different reasons. Charles Leclerc's car was underweight and Lewis Hamilton, something got rubbed off. It's just, the thickness of something was not where it should be. So that's what happened. And I'm absolutely disappointed 2 races in, and I don't think 2025 is our year anymore. I cannot take this anymore. And I think we should just start focusing on 2026, the year of regulation changes. And I think that's the year where Ferrari can finally show up with a package which is competitive from the get-go and does not fuck up with the strategy or does not fuck up with the car setup, doesn't change the setup of the car when the car is performing well. Like this basic common sense type of things. I think that'll happen from 2026. So 2026 is our year. It's official. I cannot hold on to hope anymore. I know it's only been 2 races, but morning shows today. So that's that. We move on. Up next, we have Aston Martin. First of all, you have to put some respect on Lance's name now. It's been 2 races into 2025 and he has 10 points on the board. He is ahead of both of the Ferrari drivers and he has single-handedly outscored 3 different teams. As of now, he is carrying Aston Martin on his shoulders. All of the points scored by Aston Martin belongs to Lance Stroll. And Fernando Alonso, being a rookie right now, I think he has to learn a lot from an older veteran of the sport in the name of Lance Stroll, in the shape of Lance Stroll. Either way, Stroll actually did nothing stupid. And that is one of his biggest strengths. I really don't know why he wasn't performing like that. A lot of people are speculating Lance is just performing out of spite because the king of F1 YouTube, RPM, made this video, as he usually does, about Lance Stroll. It's the most recent diss video about Lance Stroll, which was released a few days before the Australian Grand Prix. And I guess people are speculating that Lance has actually seen that video and he has taken that constructive criticism in a positive way. And now he is channeling all of that into his craft, which is to drive Formula One cars. People are speculating that. Anyway, Fernando Alonso, massive run of bad luck continues from Australia. So there's nothing he could have done in Australia in that DNF. He ran over the gravel. It's like driving over marbles. So he was basically a passenger. And in China, his brakes got on fire. His rear right got on fire. And there's, again, nothing he could do. I'm really interested in seeing both of these guys score some decent points together. And also, Lance has closed the gap to Fernando in qualifying pace and in race pace. So that's very interesting to see. I'm actually rooting for Lance. So let's see how far he can take this form and how many points he ends up with by the end of the season. We move on. Williams Racing. Here too, you need to put some respect in Alex Albon's name. A lot of people, when Carlos was signed to the team, were speculating that he's going to smoke Alex and he's going to expose Alex as a mediocre driver. I guess that's all wrong, right? But regardless of all of that chatter, Alexander Albon, actually a pretty solid driver, doesn't make any mistakes and takes the most out of the car. Something is wrong with Carlos Sainz's qualifying approach because that's where he seems to be making these type of mistakes. In Australia, we didn't see much of Carlos Sainz racecraft, the classic smooth operator, because he crashed out. But in China, started P15, ended P10 after the double disqualification of the Ferrari. Originally, he would have ended P12. But either way, a good performance nonetheless on a track where it is difficult to overtake because of the graining. The biggest achievement, I would say, for these two guys in the Chinese Grand Prix weekend is not crashing. Because in Australia, one of the Williams crashed, which is the Carlos Williams. The smooth operator wasn't smooth. But it seems that the curse is now broken. So that's the good positive thing. We will see how consistent these two guys remain through the season. I think in the initial part of the season, they will be a little bit more competitive compared to as the season progresses. We will see some drop off, but this is racing. We don't know what's going to happen for real. I'm genuinely hoping Carlos gets onto the podium because that'll be so sweet. Either way, we move on. Haas. The biggest surprise of the weekend was the pace of the Haas. So Esteban Ocon overtook Kimi Antonelli by raw pace. I mean, he went off track a little bit, but he still managed to pull off the overtake. I don't want to listen about the tires, okay? If you are in a Mercedes and you are being overtaken by some guy in a Haas, they're faster. So they definitely have some nice pace. And Oliver Behrman also finished in the points. He finished the race in P10. Great performance by him. Started P17, went all the way to P10, executed the strategy well. They have some decent pace. And Haas people, they're a little bit dramatic. You know what I mean? In the beginning of the 2024 season, I'm talking about last year, these motherfuckers said that we're going to be plumb lost. But as the races progressed, as we went on to first round to the next and to the next, we saw that they definitely did have some good performance and they were not the last team on the grid. In 2025 also, right after the first round in Australia, these motherfuckers were like, yeah, that's the reality and stuff like that, and we didn't eat much, we didn't sleep much. Esteban Ocon particularly, what a fucking bitch. These French motherfuckers complain a lot. They're a little bit dramatic, which is understandable because it's F1 and, you know, there's a lot on the line. But it seems that they're significantly faster than what originally all of us thought. And there is also more to come. So I'm excited to see these guys battle, especially Oliver Behrman's performance. I think he keeps up with Esteban Ocon and in some occasions will beat him. I am rooting for Esteban Ocon, not Esteban Ocon. I'm rooting for Oliver Behrman because Ocon is a terrible teammate. So finally excited to see that these guys have a competitive car. It's gonna be a little bit tough for Behrman in some of the races because Esteban will deliberately jeopardize his race. So we will see how he deals with all of that in intra-team rivalry. We move on. Red Bull. or as I like to call them, Verstappen.com Racing. This is basically a one-horse team, so let's first talk about the only horse in Verstappen.com Racing, Max Verstappen. What a great race! At one point, we all thought that he's going to finish fifth, but he pulled that great move against Charles Leclerc, who was driving with an improved Ferrari that he improved by breaking the front wing end plate. And he was actually looking pretty competitive towards the end of the race. And I think if there were a few more laps left, or he started to push a few more laps earlier in that second stint, he probably could have challenged George Russell for the last podium place. I don't know, I'm just saying. But on the other side of the garage in Red Bull, Liam Lawson, absolutely uneventful, gets knocked out in Q1 as per. And in the race, he was actually making some progress, but then he got overtook by the Haas of Oliver Bearman. The Haas of Oliver Bearman overtook Liam Lawson while his teammate were fighting for podium positions and race wins and is arguably competing for the World Championship. So that's the whole story of Red Bull. And I think what's going to happen in the future is Liam Lawson will probably lose it because the amount of pressure that Red Bull is going to put on him and the media is going to put on him and he himself is going to put on him, because he talked a lot of shit when he came to Formula 1. And he said that I'm not here to make friends, and my job as a professional is to get the most performance out of the car. And in Netflix Drive to Survive, he yapped even more. So there's a lot of pressure, there's a lot of guilt, regret, and self accountability on himself. And one day he's gonna implode and he will probably stab Helmut Marko with a screwdriver or something. We are all gonna see it. It's inevitable. Like, his career has ended before it even began, because right now he's just gonna be chewed up and spat out by the Red Bull family. I don't know if anyone else is gonna take him. The rest of the teams are happy with their current driver lineup for the foreseeable future. So he basically ended his entire career by talking himself up to the second Red Bull seat. Because imagine Liam Lawson said all these things in the interviews and in front of the cameras. Imagine how much he has talked himself up in front of Christian Horner and Helmut Marko. He definitely went in there and said that I'm better than Checo, I'm better than Daniel. I can potentially beat Max Verstappen by the end of the year if you give me that Red Bull seat. He probably said all those things. And now he knows that he cannot live up to the standards. He has realized that Max Verstappen is actually the second coming of Jesus Christ. So right now, the only option in front of him is to hold on, tolerate the pressure, absorb as much as he can, the external turmoil and depression, and one day implode and take a screwdriver and stab Helmut Marko. That's probably going to happen. I guess we will see, but phenomenal drive by Max Verstappen. The team looks good in Verstappen's hand. They have only one horse in the race, and it'll be really fun if we reach the midway of the season, or like 5 or 7 Grand Prix, and Max Verstappen scored all of the points in Red Bull and Liam Lawson is with 0 points, kind of like Aston Martin right now with Lance Stroll scoring all of the points. Either way, I guess we will see what happens in the upcoming weekends, but that's the future for Liam Lawson. I feel sad for him already. Up next, we have Mercedes. There is nothing really much to say about these guys other than the fact that George Russell could be a legitimate title contender by just maximizing on his day and staying out of trouble. He has done nothing, as all of the memes suggest, just focused on his own race and maintained his pace and got another podium. It'll be surprising to see him as still the title contender, like, deep into the season despite having 0 wins. But he's probably going to win a race or two here and there on tracks, particularly where Mercedes are strong. On the other side of garage, Kimi Antonelli, on the surface, it looks like he didn't do well. Started P8, finished P8, bumped up in the classification to P6 after both of the Ferraris were disqualified. But his car had some floor damage throughout the race. It was weird and he was losing performance, so he did manage the entire race well. And Mercedes didn't even tell him that he had floor damage. So he kind of drove throughout the race. He just tugged it out a little bit. Great tenacity from Kimi Antonelli, but he still is a little bit behind George Russell in terms of getting the most out of this car, but it is impressive to see how far he has come so early into the season. Let's see what he does in Japan. I'm excited about this kid. Up next, we have the champions of 2025, probably. Like, I mean, these guys are definitely the constructors champions. They already have 78 points on the board, way ahead of I think it is Mercedes and P2 who have I think 50 something points. Either way, so these guys already have pulled out, pulled away from the pack in the constructor standings. I guess the only thing that is remaining is the drivers' championship. Both of these two drivers look dialed in, and if they start on pole and they do nail the start, it is impossible for anybody to catch up to them because such is their pace difference. And they were already the fastest car in the last race of 2024 season, and they have even extended that gap. So I don't see anybody taking the constructor's crown away from McLaren. And it's very likely, if you're realistically talking about it, I think it is going to be one of these two guys who will become a Formula One world champion in the 2025 season. Now, the thing is, who will be the champion between these two guys? I think it's going to be Oscar Piastri. I'm behind the Piastri bandwagon right now. Australia was inconclusive of his performance. He got a little bit of bad luck. If Ferrari continue to fuck up their pit strategies, which they will, it's basically a two-horse race for the world title. Piastri versus Lando. We will see who wins. I am rooting behind Piastri. It'll be an exciting season in that regard. So thank you for watching, like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.